Welcome to the Artful Teaching Podcast, where teachers are brought out of isolation and into conversation.
Here, we spotlight professional educators as both artists and leaders, and examine how the arts deepen student learning and improve school culture.
Education is a demanding field, and we've seen teachers rise to the challenges of their profession by leveraging the arts in the classroom.
Integrating dance, drama, music, visual arts, and media arts can bring so much joy, and we're excited to share that with you.
We're your hosts, Callie Phlox
and Heather Francis.
Thanks for joining us to hear various perspectives on the art of teaching.
Welcome to the Artful Teaching Podcast and this series on STEM and the arts. I'm Tina McCulloch, co-host for this series, and I'm here with Heather Francis and Chris Roberts, Provo City School District's art coach. It is our privilege to interview him and how he facilitates the arts throughout the district, and he has also become known as Mr. Dance. Welcome, Heather and Chris. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here, I think.
I'm really glad Chris is here, and thanks for hosting this series, Tina. It's good to be here.
Well, this is a very exciting day for us because both Heather and I admire Chris's work immensely, and so this is just kind of like an admiration experience for us.
Admiration and education. It's been 10 years that I've been learning from Chris Roberts. When I was an undergraduate student, he gave me my first teaching artist job at Reese Elementary School, and we did a really, really great fun dance intergenerational with some BYU students for the Dacey Day of Dance, and I've just been learning from you ever since, Chris.
Same. I've been learning so much from you, Heather.
How long have you worked with Chris, Tina?
I would probably say about 10 years as well. I first became acquainted with Chris through the Arts Academy by the BYU Arts Partnership. And the first thing I remember about him was doing the brain dance and bringing that into my classroom, and what a change it made in my third grade students at the time. Chris, will you please explain your current position as an arts coach and what does your job entail?
Okay, my current position, I'm the Beverley Taylor Sorenson Arts Integration Coach for Provo City School District, which means I help facilitate that grant. I make sure that the principals and BTS specialists stay true to the requirements of that grant. I try to have the backs of the BTS specialists, and I try to help them in multiple ways and offer them, what should I call them, bonuses for for this. Like this spring, I'm taking them down the Moab Daily on the Colorado River. So I try to do things like that to keep them happy. And I'm also the Provo City School District Arts Coordinator, which means preschool through 12th grade. I do what I can to support all the different teachers, whether they're drama teachers, music teachers, visual art teachers, dance teachers. So I help pay to send them to conferences and workshops. I help pay for buses to bring their kids to the art museums, just things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Don't you also do some teaching?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of teaching.
A lot. Yeah, so when I was first hired by the Provo City School District, there really wasn't a job description. And my introduction into the district, well, there really wasn't an introduction. And so I made up a flyer of some things I could offer to teachers, and I went to all 13 elementary schools and put my flyer in every box, and I had a few bites. But now I work with a whole lot of teachers and a whole lot of students. So, yeah, I teach a lot of dance, preschool through 6th grade.
You know, it was the word of mouth that got around.
Yeah.
And once you did one very effective thing in one classroom, it spread very quickly. One thing that I have had in the last 2 years is realizing that your schedule is so jam-packed. And it is hard to reserve Mr. Dance to come to your classroom.
Yeah, and especially when one principal out of school uses me as his go-to and calls me up in the summer, hey, Chris, do you think we could do this with you this year? And pretty much takes 3 of my 4 working days. So, and that's another thing, I'm only 0.75 contract, so I fit a lot into those 30 hours a week, which is never 30 hours.
Like any educator, right?
Like any educator.
You
yeah.
give your heart to it. Well, it sounds like you've sold at least one principle on the whole idea of arts integration and the benefit for the students.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. He is very pro arts and wants his students to experience. As a matter of fact, so he's also has a visual art BTS specialist there, and he gives her 1 full hour with each class. So it's pretty amazing.
So he's reserving time
Yeah.
and showing that he
And
does
space.
appreciate.
Yeah, she has a whole classroom where the kids come to her. Yeah.
Awesome. My next question is, how do you help schools realize Beverley Taylor Sorenson's dream that all children receive the best education and an education that includes the arts?
I would say one of the things I do is I'm kind of a education book junkie and journals, and so I do a lot of reading, and it's mainly nonfiction and all to do with education and a lot of neuroscience and all the things that support education and children. And when I read something, I share that with not only classroom teachers and not only the BTS specialists, but with teachers that I come in contact with, and then they go and share that information too. So one of the things I do is I share information. Another thing that I do is I make sure that the BTS specialists in our district get highlighted by the Provo City School District PR people. So make sure that their arts nights are advertised, and I help the specialists with their art nights and different things. And one big thing we did this year that I was a big part of was we planned a district-wide dance concert where we had all the secondary schools and 2 elementary schools involved in having students dance. And we had ballroom dancers and creative and modern dancers. So for those elementary students, it was just amazing that they got to go to Provo High School and dance in front of a full house of families and friends. So that was awesome.
It was awesome. I was there and I got to feel the energy in the auditorium. I saw the elementary school students spacing on stage and just the energy. And my heart ached that I couldn't be there for the full performance, but it was good job, Chris. That was so amazing.
Thank you.
I've heard several comments about that dance concert as well, just around the district, and the energy and the excitement. I mean, you planted in the hearts of these little elementary students that this is a lifestyle. This is the way I can carry the arts throughout my life. And that energy just feeds. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
As a participant in your dance classes for educators, you have been really, like you said, well-read and disseminate that information so that as a teacher goes back into the school and she has to explain why she's incorporating dance and movement into the classroom, it makes it so much easier for them to explain it to parents, to explain it to the colleague across the class, the hall, as well as the principal. So that is very well appreciated that you keep that research coming into the classrooms and why the arts are so important.
Thank you. And as far as parents, for teachers to share with it, whether it's their principal or their colleagues, for parents, I've received quite a few emails from parents just talking about the joy their children feel that they have dance. So those have been really nice emails from parents.
I'm glad you're getting that recognition. And I have a little surprise for you. When I prepared for this podcast, I reached out to my colleagues in the Provo City School District. And so this next question precedes a quote from a teacher who's had you in their classroom. Chris is amazing. He has a way of working with students and teachers to help them become more aware of their bodies and minds and to integrate core content into his kinesthetic dance activities. He didn't come from a dance background originally, which makes his story even cooler. And I think it's helpful because he knows how to approach students who also don't come from a dance background. So, what is your dance background and what is your story with dance?
Yeah. My dance background is that I was the carpool dad for my daughter Anna, who was in the BYU Creative Dance class, and from the age 3 on up to 18, she was involved in that program. And my wife was supporting my hobby of teaching by rocking the business world. And so I was the carpool daddy. And instead of sitting in the car while she was in dance class, I would go in and watch. And her first 3 years, she had Miriam Bowen. And so I got to listen and watch to an incredible dance teacher teach my daughter. And so I don't know if I didn't take notes or anything. I was just sitting in there, and I was actually correcting papers because I was a classroom teacher. So I was correcting papers while I was also in that room, absorbing that energy and the talk Miriam was using and just what she had the students doing. And I was also watching my own daughter progress through all these classes and all the skills she was picking up, the creativity, the communication skills, the problem-solving skills. It was amazing. And so I finally, through my thick head, said, well, that's exactly what I want for my students. And so I wrote a grant. And I had Doris Trujillo, who was on the artist roster. She came to our school at Reese Elementary in Nebo School District, and for 10 days she did amazing stuff with our students. And then on that last day, she left Mary Joyce's book, First Steps in Teaching Creative Dance to Children. And it was the first edition of that book, which I don't know how many editions it's in now. But on Monday, the following week, I went in holding that book without any experience of teaching dance, and I read what Mary Joyce wrote in the book to tell the students. I read it, and they did what I was prompted to say, and then I read the next thing, and then they did it, and then I read the next thing, and they did it, and it was amazing. So teachers out there, do not be afraid of being the fool. Matter of fact, you have to let your ego go, and it's so important to bring dance to these kids. But anyway, that's how I started. And then I started going to workshops because the state offered workshops to teachers, classroom teachers, on how to bring dance into their students. So I attended those, and I guess I started attending a lot of them. And then Marilyn Barrett, who was the department chair here at Brigham Young University,
Previous department chair,
she told me about Anne Green Gilbert and this 2-week dance workshop that Anne Green Gilbert does in Seattle, Washington, and said, you ought to go to that, Chris. And so I did. And I spent 10 days with Anne Green Gilbert and other people from across the nation and came back, I think, a better teacher of dance. It's hard not to come back away from that, not being better. Anne Green Gilbert is so incredible. Eventually, I was being asked to teach workshops to teachers, so I guess I got good enough in teaching dance that I could do that. But also, Marilyn Barrett got me involved in National Dance Education Organization and in Utah Dance Education Organization and in DACY, Dance and the Child International. So there have been powerful women all around me, and that's another thing because it's very rare for me to run into other males in this dance world. It's pretty much 99% female and strong females. That's what I've learned in this dance world, very strong females. And so I've been blessed to have that in my life. Anyway, so that's, I guess, how I've gotten a little bit better in teaching dance to kids.
I think you really do incorporate that. Let the ego go.
Yeah.
And your presence in the classroom is phenomenal because when you're there, you are with the kids. You are facilitating. And as a classroom teacher who has just observed and participated with you, it is so easy. You just create this atmosphere of, yeah, I can, for all levels of students, even that reluctant one who really doesn't want to leave the side of the classroom. So amazing. So
can I add?
Yeah.
An observation, Chris. You were a classroom teacher without any dance experience, and now you collaborate and work with university dance professors without a dance degree. And I just wanted to point out that you model that yes I can do it attitude in your own story. And then I also wanted to point out for viewers the way that you were posturing yourself as you're talking into the microphone. He's literally holding his hand in front of him like he's holding Mary Joyce's book, because he can read the book out loud and give the movement prompts from the book, and he did it. And for teachers who are like, I'm not a dancer, I'm, maybe not comfortable in my body or expressing very, largely through my body, that posture of you holding the book, what I saw as you're talking into the microphone, is still so full of energy and still so full of purpose. And it is an inroad to dance for teachers who may be uncomfortable with the art form at the moment.
Yeah.
Or a novice.
Thank you very much. And I will say this, the teachers who, when I first go into their classroom and they move with the students, I had this really special one, second grade teacher. She wrote me quite a long email talking about how the experience that she felt herself when she was dancing, nothing to do with her students, just the feeling and the emotions that she was feeling dancing, and just she felt freer than she's ever felt in a long, long time. So to get that feedback from that teacher was really rich and rewarding.
You helped her feel the wind on her face, even in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And the wind underneath her wings. That's what you do. Definitely.
Thank you.
So what advice do you have for arts educators collaborating with classroom teachers? And the second part of this question is classroom teachers collaborating with your arts educators in your building, because I know that's part of that Beverley Taylor Sorenson endowment, that idea that this is going to be a co-equal collaboration. And so what kind of advice do you have for us?
So for the first part of that question, advice for the BTS specialists and how they collaborate with teachers. And I'm really very pleased with the BTS specialists in Provo District, because they all do this, every single one of them. They ask the classroom teacher, what's the best way that I can communicate with you, and how often, and how can I best serve you? They all approach the classroom teacher that way. And so some classroom teachers want to meet face-to-face. Some want to do it through email. Some want to do it on their Friday PLC time. It's different throughout our district. And I imagine through the state of Utah, and I'm hoping that most BTS specialists are honoring the classroom teacher and how they want to do that collaboration, because the BTS model pretty leaves it open. Kathy Jensen, who's over for the state of Utah over the program, and the research shows this, says that the very best is where we are co-teaching, where the classroom teacher's in with the BTS specialists and they co-teach. But they also wanted to make the BTS program go into more schools. And the way, and they did this, was saying to principals, okay, the collaboration has to be there, but we'll let you use it as a planning time too. And so for a lot of schools have adopted that as their model. But I encourage principals, especially with a first year specialist, to have the classroom teacher in there with the specialists to co-teach with them and to be there and to help with behavior and classroom management. So far, the principals in Provo District have followed my advice. So anyway, so now the second part of that question.
How should a general education classroom teacher initiate collaboration with the school arts specialist?
Yeah. So in the BTS schools, the BTS specialist is the instigator. Let's say you're not in a BTS school, but you say maybe you have a visual art planning time technician or something like that. Then the classroom teacher, I would just say go talk face to face to that art teacher or that planning time technician and say, hey, I'm studying the water cycle this coming up in a couple of weeks. Is there anything you can do to help me with that? I mean, the research is clear that the more you add arts, whether it's visual art, music, dance, or theater, or the media arts to what you're studying, the retention and the engagement of the students is going to be much higher. And so as a classroom teacher, I would want that. And so I'm going to go to, let's say my BTS specialist is in visual arts and I'm not a visual art person. I'm going to make sure that what I'm doing in the classroom, is there anything I can do to back up what he or she is doing in the specialty time? And so I would say just keep all lines of communication open. And here's another thing too. Every district in the sites organization has BTS coaches in their districts. And so one thing I would say to a classroom teacher is find out who their BTS coach is in their district and go to them. And I've had several teachers come to me and ask for help with dance in particular, but I would say find out who that coach is and get ideas from them too. And that coach might refer them to another person at this school, and they can help you with that particular idea. So I would say reach out, because there are resources. And of course, a very rich resource is the BYU Advancing Arts Leadership website, which has amazing lesson plans in it.
And resources.
Yeah.
Yes, that have been vetted by so many teachers and very well written as well.
Yeah.
I really like that whole idea of communication and initiating conversations.
Yeah.
And then it's all for the benefit of the students to retain and engage in the curriculum so that they can remember it, embody it through dance, visual arts to participate in creating it, all those wonderful things.
Thank you.
And I'll just clarify it with the site's office operates the BYU Public School Partnership, which is 5 school districts that we serve here at the BYU Arts Partnership. And our website is Advancing Arts Leadership. So along with your district coach, you have the BYU Arts Partnership resources, and that's available to all BYU Public School Partnership schools.
Thank you for that clarification.
So the next quote from another teacher. Are you ready for this one?
Okay.
Mr. Roberts has been working with my class since 2016. 8 years now.
Wow.
He is amazing. He finds books about all different subjects such as science, literacy, or social skills. He is so creative in designing ways for the students to dance to the books and learn something at the same time. From how plants grow to the rain coming down, rhyme scheme, and being kind. He finds ways to incorporate movement into these lessons. So based on that quote, how do you, Mr. Dance, go about planning arts and integrative lessons when you go into a classroom?
Like I said before, I read a lot, but I also read children's books a lot. And when I go to bookstores, which I love doing, my wife is always saying, "Aren't we done yet here?" Because I could spend hours in an independent bookstore, but I always go to the children's section, and when I read a children's book, I look for, wow, this has all kinds of verbs in it that we could dance, and the images in it. And so when I see a children's book that has all that movement potential, I buy it and I use it. So part of my planning, I consider the grade, what's appropriate for the grade. I consider what they're studying in their science and in their math and in their language arts and in their social studies. So I use books like that way, picture books mainly. And then I also go to the Advancing Arts Leadership and I look at all those great lesson plans. So I depend on people like Janice Shumway from Jordan School District, because her lesson plans are amazing. There's a book called Dance Integration, 36 Dance Lesson Plans for Science and Mathematics by Karen Kaufman and Jordan DeLine. And so there are incredible lesson plans in that. I also make up things too, and I don't know how to describe how I do that. I guess I could use the word inspiration. I walk a lot, and I walk in nature a lot. And so as I'm walking and listening and observing and paying attention to that environment, I find that my mind quiets and ideas come to me. So so some of my ideas come from that too.
Nice creative process, right? Mm-hmm. I really loved how you said you use the images from your children's books and the verbs in order to find movement potential. And there are so many great nonfiction book titles in the science and maths that do have wonderful images and great verbs.
Yeah, Chris has a gift for finding the danceable books.
I would agree.
And I think we just heard that as much as he's Mr. Dance, he's also Mr. ecologically minded environmental teacher as well.
I've done a lot with the environmental education. Yeah,
I've appreciated the way he brought in some incredible books about the Grand Canyon into my classroom. And also when he talked about the water cycle, I could see some of the pictures, and he has fine art in these children's books that my students they could see it and they could also feel it. So the power of both the image and the movement.
Yeah.
All right, so I have 2 more questions for you. Why do you feel arts integration in STEM subjects is important, and provide some examples?
Well, if you do any reading at all or paying attention to whether it's the Nobel Prizes or any kind of science awards and stuff, most scientists, mathematicians, neuroscientists, their hobbies are violin playing or watercolors painting or dance. They all have hobbies in the arts. So to me, the reason why it's so important is because it brings those subjects alive. And it's hard to imagine doing science without adding, whether it's that visual component or the physical movement component. It's just, of course, you can sit there and hand out a science book to the students or a math book and the kids are reading it. But if to make it come alive to those students and to have them play with maybe some paints to express that, or with some notes and do a mind mapping of those ideas, or to get up and move that idea, whether, like, let's say you're doing a math class on angles and you're learning obtuse and acute and equal, and so you actually have them with their bodies. Oh, this is an acute angle, this is an obtuse angle, this is a 90-degree angle. You can actually, it just makes the kids have more fun learning, and it's also going to give them those, it gets into their muscle memory, and into when they do go to have to take a test on that, they go, oh yeah, I did this. Oh wait, oh yeah, and I did that. And they'll close their eyes and remember that time, or remember that painting they did, or remember that song they sang. So yeah, it just makes them come alive.
Listeners should again be informed that Chris is moving his arms in different angular sizes and shapes, and doing exactly what he's seen students do while taking tests or trying to remember information, and that is using the proprioception senses of their body to remember a space that they held or a shape that they held that taught them the knowledge that they need for that moment.
I love that key of make learning come alive, and that idea of closing your eyes and reliving that experience. So wonderful. And that goes along with another quote from another teacher. So she said that as she watched her students, she noticed that dance strengthens students' abilities to listen and follow complex directions. In all areas of instruction, it is crucial for students to be able to follow multi-step instructions. This ability saves time and builds working memory. In dance, students are able to easily self-evaluate their ability to follow these complex instructions, and the feedback is always immediate. So, you've said it over and over, but could you please clarify why artful teaching is vital for students and teachers today?
I think first I want to do teachers, why it's important. It seems like in today's world that not very many people have the backs of teachers. As a matter of fact, they're being attacked on many sides. And I think it's absolutely vital that teachers care for themselves, that they need to, number one, physically take care of themselves, because they won't be able to do their job, which is a highly demanding job, unless they're completely there and putting the right fuel into their body, getting the right exercise, and just taking care of their physical self. They also need to take care of their emotional self. And part of that emotional self is being with friends, being able to express if they're having a down day, being able to express that to someone who is really important to them, being able to show those emotions, whether it's through turning on some music in their kitchen while they're making dinner and dancing. There's also the social part that they need to take care of, to keep those key people in their lives that support them, that offer them, maybe it's just the help they need or the listening ear they need. There's also the mental part of them, the intellectual part of them, that they need to keep abreast of good science, of good neuroscience, of good educational philosophy, and I think it's okay to talk about a spiritual self too. So like I described before to you already, that I take long walks in nature, and right now my wife and I are empty nesters, and so we just do it on our, but I know a lot of classroom teachers have kids, so do that with their kids and take them out into nature, because walking in nature has a more powerful effect than walking in the mall. So they really need to take care of themselves. And when they add the arts to their teaching, they come more alive. They feel more refreshed at the end of the day. They just feel like it brings them joy. So that's why I think it's very, very critical to look into that artful teaching. What am I doing for myself to keep me vital and keep me running on my 100% for my students? And then for students, when they have a teacher who's feeling that vibrancy in themselves and are feeding their souls and feeding their physical bodies and feeding their intellectual and feeding their social part, when they have a teacher like that, they grow too. They come away at the end of the day much happier and going home, and they just leave school in a different mindset than, going through more of a drudgery type thing. So when kids can experience learning that's integrated with the arts, it brings more joy to them as well. So
I think you just described artful living. And
Yeah.
you cannot not pass on the joy, the energy, the vitality without having it be contagious to other people.
Yeah, which thanks for saying that, because I want to share. Arthur Burks is an author with The Atlantic, and he just wrote an article, and I cannot see, but I can give you the title so you can look it up. And it's subtitled How to Build a Life, but the title is Art Should Be a Habit, Not a Luxury. And he wrote, just like exercise and sleep, engaging with the arts is a necessity for a full and happy life. And it's just an awesome article in The Atlantic magazine. So look that up, teachers.
Well, that concludes our interview with Chris Roberts, a.k.a. Mr. Dance. Thank you for being here, Heather and Chris. It has been an enlightening and enlivening experience.
Thank you for joining us for the Artful Teaching Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this conversation on STEM and the arts. Subscribe to our podcast for future episodes on arts integrated science, social studies, and literacy.
Artful Teaching is made possible by the BYU Arts Partnership and the McKay School of Education. Thank you to Tina McCulloch for hosting this series, and to our editor, James Houston. And special thanks to all of the teachers who are changing lives while serving in schools.
If you like what you heard, please leave us a review and share with a friend. We believe artful teaching can change the world. And you can find all our episodes at advancingartsleadership.com, along with lesson plans, blogs, downloadable resources for the classroom, and more. Or follow us on social media at Every Child, Every Art. I'm Heather Francis.
And I'm Callie Phlox, wishing you an artful journey.